Hello and welcome to Enemy Within, going out live on peoplesinternetradio.com on this 1st of December. With my co-host as always, Andy. Hello, Andy.
Hi, mate. How you doing?
Not too bad. First day of Christmas.
Is it? Screw that.
Well, everyone's putting the Christmas trees up. But, today we have a guest. We have Barry Reeves. Hello, Barry.
Hi, mate.
Evening, Barry.
Evening.
Now, it's been a bit of a mental day today, for me and for you. We've just got Mickey Summers about to arrive at our house, so I think Mickey might be joining us for a chat in a little bit. And you've been to the hospital today, haven't you?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, Bernie's a very popular guy on Enemy Within, and I know he's got a lot of support from the listeners. Could you please just give us a bit of an update on what's happened to Bernie?
Yeah, he suffered a suspected heart attack earlier on. But yeah, he's been in hospital, had a load of tests done, but they released him not so long back. So he just got home to pick a few bits up and he's staying at our house tonight.
Oh, that's great to hear that he's good hands and he's got people caring for him. And when he gets there, I'll wish him well myself, hopefully.
Yep, not a problem, mate.
But, yeah, you've actually come on to talk to us about the fantastic work that you're doing with helping with the homeless in Doncaster.
Yeah, it's, we've actually changed the name of the group now. We've changed it from helping the homeless in Doncaster to stepping forward. Now, there are reasons behind that, but they're not reasons that I'm able to go into at this point.
No, that's fair enough, Barry. Are you still...
sorry.
No, carry on, mate.
Oh, no, sorry, I seem to have a bit of a lag, so...
Okie doke. I've just gone over to headphones. That might be a bit better.
I can say you're coming across, nice and clearly when I can hear you.
Oh, right. The joys of Skype yet again.
Yes, wonderful. But yeah, sorry. Were you saying?
Yeah, obviously, there's something there you can't really talk about until it's all done and dusted. That's no problem, mate. We admire the work that you're doing. And if you could tell us a little bit about what yourself and Sarah and all your helpers are doing with the homeless people that are in Doncaster, this massive problem that we're... It's an epidemic, isn't it?
It's a lot more serious than the local government would have you believe. Well, it's a lot more serious than the UK's government would have you believe. Now, I mean, as far as Doncaster is concerned... the local council had determined that there isn't an issue, and if so, it's only a very minor one. But I mean, when we're serving people, we don't just serve the homeless. We serve homeless, vulnerable, anybody that suffers from mental health, people that have been sanctioned. Now that could be for any number of reasons they're being sanctioned, but if they're struggling and they need feeding, then we're there to offer that. But yeah, as it stands at the moment, we serve the homeless down at Doncaster Market. We serve only twice a week. It's a Monday and a Friday at 6 o'clock. So yeah, we generally serve I'd say anywhere between 40 and 70 people.
Oh wow, that's amazing work. And those people, without your help, they're obviously going to be in a right mess, aren't they?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, this is a subject that's close to my heart because I myself have been homeless about 10 years ago, and it was a pretty tough time. Yeah,
well, I can say it is going back some years for myself, but I was homeless at one point as well. And around the time that I was homeless, there was a soup kitchen, again, down at Doncaster Market, run by a gentleman. But he was really, really nice, really polite, and he came across as a really genuine guy that just wanted to help people. And because I generally had access, to nice, genuine people like that to help me through it. That's why when Sarah started, I jumped on board, and it was like, yeah, it's definitely something that we should be doing.
Yeah, that's certainly something very worthwhile. I mean, absolutely. Sorry if I sound a bit distracted here. We've just got Mickey arrived, so.
No problem, mate. I've just had a message from my partner, Sarah. She said that she's going to be in round about an hour. So she'll be able to jump on as well, if that's okay.
Oh, that'd be excellent. And, joining the conversation here, fresh from his travels about the country, we've got Mickey Summers.
Hiya.
How's it going with you, Mickey?
It's good. In fact, it's very good.
Oh, nice one. It's lovely to see that great big beaming smile on Mickey's face. We don't see enough of that. There's some headphones there for you, Mickey. That's it. We're all good to go now. So, sorry, carry on, Barry. It'd be great if we can get Sarah in.
Yeah, and so literally, that's all it says. It says I'll be in about an hour, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course it's okay, mate. Everything's spur of the moment, lastminute.com with Enemy Within, so we get quite used to it.
We don't do action replays, though.
Sorry, I'm just going to need a second. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. But,
no, sorry, it's all right. I just got a bit tangled up with one of my wires.
No problem. Oh, yeah, we're just saying we've got a bit of a hum. Unfortunately, that's one of the joys of Skype. You never know what you're going to get till you try it, and it's not the best today, but I'm sure we'll be able to keep battling through. So, how long have you been at this then, Barry?
Sarah started it initially about 18 months ago. And I mean, she was getting a little help from her mum and a friend, and then her mum had, slowly backed out, and I took her place. But it's been going nice and strong since.
Mm-hmm. And where are you at now? I mean, I know you've got some plans moving forward. Are you able to tell us anything about those plans at the minute, Barry, or is that kind of still under wraps?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we're still under wraps at that point. We're trying to finalise the paperwork for it, and don't want to count as chickens before they've hatched, so to speak.
No, that's fair enough. There's no point jeopardising it just to talk about it on here. When we got any more news to bring out, we'd be more than happy to have you back on another time and talk about it some more.
Right, yeah, that's not a problem, mate.
So what are the biggest problems with homelessness, the causes of homelessness, and the way that the government, and you mentioned the local government's handling of it, what are the major problems at the minute?
Well, Doncaster Council themselves think that there's not a massive issue, but instead of actually helping the people in Doncaster, if you register as homeless in Doncaster, we've found that a lot of the people that we've spoken to that have made an application for homelessness in Doncaster have been given a phone number for a bed and breakfast in Sheffield.
Oh, that's really useful, isn't it?
Not really. I mean, if you think about it, if you're homeless and you're getting a phone number for a bed and breakfast in Sheffield, if you don't have a phone, then you can't make that call. You're not given access to a phone to make the call. You're not given any form of money to get transport there. It's have a phone number.
Well, it's like when people are sanctioned on benefits and they go to these food banks. You have to be referred by the job centre. So people are starving going to the food bank and they go away hungry. And they've got to go through an application process to actually just get a meal.
Yeah, and so the actual food banks, there is one in Doncaster, just up the road from yourselves, and the whole process you actually have to go into the local job centre, tell them that you need access to the food bank, you explain your reasons why, if they don't think that those reasons justify you accessing the food bank, they won't give you a voucher for it.
Yeah, so people are starving. I was watching a documentary recently where a girl was totally skinned. She needed food. She hadn't ate for days. Went to the food bank. You have to go through the application process, but there's no like discretion. You would think they'd be able to have discretion at the food banks, but they're not allowed. Just to say, oh well, here's a meal for now, but you have to go through the process.
So like I said, the one up the road from us, it is possible to get a voucher, right? But it's literally at the discretion of the person that you see. Now, you'd expect some form of specific criteria, and if you really have nothing and no way of supporting yourself, your partner, any possible children, surely they'd make it more easy to access that rather than putting more rules in place.
Do you think there's a war on the homeless by the government and local government? Because it certainly seems like that to me.
More than most people would actually realise. It would appear with recent events that, from our perspective, we're seeing that the government seems to be making it illegal to be homeless.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's certain legislation has been put in place to prevent any homeless from sleeping in any town centres or from sleeping anywhere near any specific buildings. And if you actually seen or if you actually caught doing this, then they can arrest you, right, and put you in front of a judge the following morning, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, I've seen homeless people they're talking about fining homeless people £1,000 for being homeless. Well, if you ain't got a pot to piss in the first place, it's not going to do it's not going to do anybody any good. Finding people who are absolutely at rock bottom, money that they obviously can't pay, it's just completely ludicrous, isn't it?
Completely, yeah. There's no doubt about it. I believe it's vagrancy that they charging them with, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, since when have vagrancy carried a charge of £1,000 and up to 3 months in prison?
Yeah, well, it's demonising the most disadvantaged in society, and we see it right across the board these days with people who are sick, people who are disabled, and even people who can't get jobs, or people who are working 3 jobs to try and make ends meet, and they're all being called benefit scroungers. Well, sorry, we paid for all this shit. If the government hadn't stolen all the money out of the pot, wouldn't be having a problem.
Completely agree. Couldn't agree more. I mean, we were speaking about Bernie earlier on. We do a lot of different things with Bernie. And it all sort of ties in. I mean, as far as children are concerned, children and homelessness is a massive thing as well. I mean, I was pulling figures off of a website, and it's the figures were recorded by Shelter. Now, for anybody that doesn't know who Shelter is, they're a homelessness group basically, but they do figures that are calculated throughout the UK and not just in any particular location. Now, before I tell you these figures, you need to understand that homelessness isn't just people on the streets. I mean, it comes under three smaller headings. It's the ones that are actually officially homeless, right? That would show up on any charts, any information that the government do. There's the homeless that are in temporary accommodation, awaiting some kind of long-term accommodation, and then there's something called hidden homeless. Now these can be, I mean, the chances are most people will know somebody that can be classed as a hidden homeless because it's people that are sofa surfing or people that have got a tent or a sleeping bag or something like that and are crashing out somewhere, but they're not actually registered as homeless. Now, with those 3 things in mind, right, I think I was looking at this and writing the figures down around 3 to 4 weeks ago, but it's spanning between 2011 to 2015, and this is just children, right? So the number of homeless children in 2011 in the UK was 76,500. Right, now that is a massive amount of children, right? 2012, 84,000. 2013 was 87,900. Now this is going up and up and up, right? Now 76,500 initially is a massive number, right? But then in 2014, 96,000.
Wow.
And this year, you'd expect by 2015, homelessness should be a thing of the past, right? There's enough people that actually care to be able to, completely do away with homelessness. There's no reason we should still have people on the streets. 2015, 105,251 homeless children in the UK.
That is an absolute disgrace. What is it they keep trying to tell people? We're the fifth richest country in the world. And they're spending, was it £50,000 a bomb to bomb the living crap out of the already on the edge people in Syria, and they can't feed their own population. Well, not can't, don't bloody want to.
That's pretty much right as well. I mean, think about it. Between 2011 and 2015, we've had a raise of 28,751 homeless children. It's disgusting. There's no two ways about it. There's no other way to describe it. There's no need for it.
Well, especially when there's so many empty homes in the UK as well. The government keeps talking about this housing crisis, that we need to build new homes, but they need to service the ones that we already have.
Housing crisis.
Yeah, terraced houses, a full street being knocked down when there's literally nothing wrong with them.
Did you know that in Hull, there is an entire estate, right, that the council want to bulldoze?
Mm-hmm.
About 75% of the houses on this estate are empty, stood boarded up, doing nothing.
It's the same across the country. I saw a documentary about in Liverpool where they were knocking down, like I said, the full terrace streets. There was literally nothing wrong with them. When people had left, they'd boarded up the windows with metal sheets, so that nothing had happened to them at all. They were perfect. I showed you inside of some of them.
Well, Liverpool won a scheme. I can't remember the exact name of the scheme, but it's something along the lines of Homes for £1. And it's the run-down sections of Liverpool, and they're actually selling specific houses off around these areas for £1.
Wow.
Maybe we should go out and buy a few and let a few people into these places. In Nottingham, we've got an area in the Meadows, which is just down from the Midland Station. Mark Salon went round and did a video not long ago pointing out all these empty properties that Nottingham City Council have got. They've got a big homeless problem with rough sleepers. You try and get one of those people into Loxley House, like to try and deal with somebody from the housing department. They just don't want to know.
Well, that's the same everywhere, mate. It's unfortunately, it's not in them. I mean, these schemes like the Homes for £1, it's basically so they don't have to pay for it, and that's all it is. They'll sell sell a house on for £1, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be obviously conditions behind these, right? And they've got to be renovated and brought up to living. But if this is landlords that are paying for these and buying the houses for £1 and then doing them up, the average rent just around South Yorkshire, the average rent is around £420 for a 2-bedroom house. Mm-hmm. Right now, if you're paying £420 bond, £420 rent in advance, how exactly is somebody either on benefits or especially someone homeless going to afford that?
No, that's always a tricky one. I mean, I know from my situation, I got a place in a homeless hostel. That's how I ended up in Boston. But there was no light at the end of the tunnel there because you're living from hand to mouth, and the homeless hostel I was in was actually taking more money from me, from my benefits, than it would have taken if I'd have gone and lived in a bed and breakfast. And in the end, because it was run by a Christian, in inverted commas, Christian charity, and for some reason, because the residents at the hostel decided they'd rather talk to me than the staff, because the staff wrote everything down and reported up to the committee. Because they decided to talk to me, the staff started running all kinds of mind games and trying to convince me that I was going mad. It wasn't until we got a new member of staff that she was pretty much on the side of the residents and didn't do things by their book, that she said to me, no, she said, they are playing mind games. They don't like it that the residents are talking to you. That's why they're trying to make you feel like you're mad. And it was at that point that I left and moved to a pub a couple of doors away with bed and breakfast, and I was a whole heap better off with cash. But they were talking about providing this support and helping people to move on. No, they weren't. They were treating us like small children, and, you know, if you don't do as we say, we'll take your toys away. And it was just a dreadful situation to be in. And I really feel for anyone who's in that situation now, and if we can get people on like yourself talking about it to raise awareness, and also to get other people standing up and doing some of the great work that the likes of yourself, and I know we've got Mark Cox coming on soon to talk about the Love Kitchen in Liverpool, talk about what you great guys are doing and get other people helping you, and you know, move away from these councils, because they're just destroying people's life.
I couldn't agree more. You know, unfortunately, you point out, great guy on my part. You know, like I'm pretty much the sheep out of this. The partnership between myself and my partner. It was her idea entirely to start with. Mm-hmm. But yeah, since that, it has been more of a partnership. But yeah, I couldn't possibly take credit for something that I didn't initially start.
Well, to me, it doesn't matter who starts it, Barry. You know, we're all. I mean, you keep hearing this from the government. We're all in this together. But and you know, on a ground floor level, we are all in this together. And if we don't look after one another, no bugger else is going to do.
Yeah. I'm just touching what you said about the Christian place before. Mm-hmm. What we found is a lot of these hostels, they're overcharging, and they're overcharging because of one simple factor: it's classed as supported accommodation. Right. Now, they literally charge ridiculous amounts of money for a single room. Yeah, okay, most of these single rooms are furnished, right? But the rest of the money pays for security, a one-to-one key worker, which these kind of people you've got to speak to go through employment, possibilities of employment or possibilities of education. But like you said, they're the kind of things that are making you feel like a child. And it's instead of doing it the right way, right, and somebody sitting there and said, okay, so, you know, how can I help you? They're actually turning around to, well, what you actually need to do is this, right? So we'll put that down as one of your goals, and then you need to do this, and we'll put that down as one of your goals, right? And then if you don't complete what they're putting down, right, you suffer the possibility of eviction, right? Yeah. So not only are they overcharging the rooms, but yes, you then get treated like a 10-year-old child, right, with punishment if you don't complete what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I actually got a message a few minutes back from a good friend of ours, Jason, who often joins us on these shows, and he said, can you ask Barry about Doncaster Council's attitude to homelessness? I mean, we touched on it briefly. I didn't know if there was something that Jason was hinted at there that you ought to maybe tell us about.
Yeah, it's not so much Doncaster Council, it's more, and don't really want to go there. But we've witnessed some things that most people wouldn't believe, without actually seeing it firsthand. We've witnessed on Silver Street. We used to, as well as this, we used to do a soup kitchen. A soup run. And on a Saturday evening last winter, we were going around town, finding the homeless and giving them some soup. If we managed to get any crisps or anything like that, we'd leave them a bit of something. But one of the nights that we were out, it was quite a busy night in Doncaster town centre. And like any busy night, you always end up with the idiots fighting. Well, in this particular case, we were walking up Silver Street past some of the most busier nightclubs, and there was literally half a dozen fully grown men really beating the hell out of each other in the middle of the street. And we witnessed two officers walk completely straight past them, paid no attention to them whatsoever, and spoke to two homeless men that were sat in the doorway and told them to move on.
You see that everywhere you go. I've been up and down the country, and London, Nottingham, Leicester, Derby. It's the same wherever you go. The homeless are a sitting target because they've got nowhere else to go.
Well, that's just it. They seem to be persecuted for being homeless. Now, whether that be their own fault or whether that be something in their past, or something that's caused it that was beyond their control, it doesn't really make any difference. The fact is, these people are homeless, right? And in order to stop that and help them get into somewhere, they need help. They don't need persecution.
No, of course not. But isn't it always the way that bullies always pick on the weak? And that's exactly what we see going on here. It's the playground scenario, but unfortunately, it's a lot more serious than it tends to be in a school playground.
Unfortunately. So I mean, we got to the point where South Yorkshire Police Force with some of us aren't called South Yorkshire Police Force anymore. It's South Yorkshire Bully Patrol.
Well, most of these police, they're acting on the directions of each individual council, so they're instructing the police. So maybe we need to take it to the councils. We've proved just recently, you take it to them and they don't really, really want a piece of it, and maybe we get a group together and hit one of these councils. Doncaster's not far from Nottingham, and I'm sure we can rally a few troops and take it to, not only to the council in Doncaster, take it to South Yorkshire Police HQ as well, because they've got enough rubbish to be dealing with. They've still got the aftermath of Rotherham to deal with, and I'm sure they don't want a load more crap on their own doorstep.
I think they've already got quite enough crap on their own doorstep.
Well, let's bring them some more. More is better.
Plus the fact we've got something else planned for this weekend on the 5th, where we've been organising a protest with Bernie to do with child abuse. Now we're going to tie the homelessness into that, and we're going to drop a bit of a bombshell because we're sick of trying to work from the outside and not getting anywhere. So yeah, if you want to hear what that bombshell is, sorry, but you're going to have to come along. So anywhere from 10 o'clock onwards on the 5th of December, outside the Mansion House in Doncaster, myself, my partner, Sarah, and Bernie will all be there, and you'll know where we are. You'll most likely hear us before you see us.
Well, it's time somebody did something, and it takes just one person to stand up and another to stand behind them, and people will follow because people have had enough.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, we went to Westminster with Bernie in September to do with the child abuse, but I mean, myself and Sarah, essentially, we were helping the homeless. We're stepping forward. We do most of our work with the homeless. But yeah, anywhere that we think the government are out of line, or people have been persecuted, or aren't given the help that's obviously needed, right, then we're more than happy to give a helping hand and work towards getting the help necessary for these people.
You were totally right, by the way, earlier on when you were talking about the £1 homes. It happened near me in Newcastle a couple of decades ago with Benwell. It was the roughest part of Newcastle. At one point there was big riots, and there were 3-storey houses, big houses, but they were sold off for £1 afterwards, with the clause that you had to spend 15 or 20 grand on it in a certain time period. Well, the only people with that amount of money are landlords. So landlords took them over, and now it's a big student area of Newcastle where they have stupid high rent.
Mm-hmm. We just got a comment from Nita in the chat room, and she says, while the men and women of Westminster decide to bomb what is left of Syria, men and women, sheeple, are glued to the telly trying to spot Philip Schofield in his Christmas jumper. Coincidence or planned distraction? I mean, there's so many distractions going on.
Yeah, definitely a distraction.
Yeah, I mean, we had this Black Friday garbage the other day. I don't know about anybody who listens to this, but, well, I just couldn't, anything that popped up with Black Friday on it, I just deleted it straight away. Can't be doing with that shit. We've all got enough shiny things. Some of us have got far too many, and it ain't going to improve your life one bit by having the new model of iPad or PC or whatever. What's going to improve everybody's life is if we start standing together and treating each other like human beings, and make this lot of monsters in Westminster, just make them irrelevant.
And if a lot of people really knew the truth about Black Friday, most people with half a brain would be boycotting it. It used to come after Thanksgiving in America, and it was when they sold off all the black slaves the day after Thanksgiving. So, right, let's take a look back at the history of all that, and just boycott it.
Well, it's just a stupid thing anyway. They raise the prices three months before to make it sound like everything's cheap, and then they get zombies attacking supermarkets and stores for stuff that's
isn't that always the same? I mean, it doesn't matter what say you look at. All retail establishments, they slowly raise the prices in between each sale, so that when it comes to the sale and they say, oh yes, 70% off, what they actually mean is like 20% off of the raise. Even though we've raised it by 90%, so by knocking 20% off it, you're actually getting it for the same price it was to start with.
It's like the supermarkets that every week that I go food shopping, something's on rollback, something's gone up. So at the end of the day, your trolley still costs the same amount of money. They do it on purpose. It's always the amount of money.
Yeah, I totally get that as well. And I've had a few people, think the same thing. They'll roll back the cost of one thing, but they'll put the price of something else up, to compensate and keep an even balance. So yeah, I couldn't agree with that part more.
We've got a comment from a lovely lady over in the US of A, Lorraine, Mickey's wife, and she says it sounds to me like this is really screwed up there. Paedophile protectors, government giving the homeless a hard time, bedroom tax. I couldn't write this script. Yeah, my thoughts exactly, Lorraine, and thanks for that.
Couldn't have said that better myself at all.
It's like a Twilight Zone reality. Like we've been saying, there's always money for war. There's always money for these £1 million bombs to be launched from ships. And at the same time, we're going, oh, we all need to tighten our belts and attacking the poorest in our society.
I mean, it's not like they need a massive amount of money, right, to actually do houses up to a relevant standard. I mean, altogether, statistically speaking, there are approximately 800,000 empty houses in the UK at any one time. Yeah. Right, that's an approximation. It's not an exact figure, right? But around 300,000 of those can be accounted for houses that are currently being renovated or ones that are on the market for sale or to let. But that leaves 500,000 houses stood there doing nothing. Right now, as it stands the UK build approximately, I think it's about 102, 103,000 houses every year, right? Because according to them, there is a housing shortage. But I don't see how 500,000 houses is a housing shortage, right? So, if all these houses are sat there and they're building another 100,000, say 100,000 because it's easier, every year, why is it that with approximately 120,000 homeless in the UK, or that's from the applications anyway, so say probably through hidden homeless and ones in temporary accommodation, say 150,000 as a ballpoint figure, why do we still have homeless, and why, going back to the Syria thing, can our government only accept 20,000?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, once you start looking at those figures, it shows you how ridiculous it all is. Nita's just commented there in the chat room, ask for their definition of homeless. If a man decides to live upon the streets on this earth, is he homeless? And then Delamitri says, address wherever I sleep.
See, Doncaster Council, I was having a quick scout through Doncaster Council website, and I found the page on homelessness, and it was describing bits and pieces of homelessness. Now on there it states, and I've literally written it down word for word, if someone's homelessness cannot be prevented, Doncaster Council will assess circumstances, and this may take some time. We will write to you to tell you of our decision on whether we have a duty to provide you with somewhere to live. Now, if this person has put in an application for homelessness, how exactly are you supposed to write to them?
It's a joke, isn't it?
It does seem a little strange, that. Now, if this situation is the fact that someone's about to be homeless, fair enough, right? But surely, if somebody's about to be homeless, they'd be entitled to some form of help from the local council.
You would have thought so.
Well, apparently not. Because I'm just trying to find it. Somewhere on here, I actually wrote down another paragraph, and I can't for the life of me think where I've put it. I'm really sorry.
No sweat, mate. It's been a bit of a crazy day for you, and you can't expect to have everything in the right place given what you've been through today, I'm sure.
Right, I'm sure I will come across it at some point. I just really can't see it. Oh, there we go. Sorry. It does say, in some cases, we can only offer advice and assistance on how to find yourself a home.
But in the end, what do they really want to do to physically help you? You know, there's people out there that's been on the streets, some of them for decades, and they don't have a clue on how to fill paperwork in. You know, they enter into a minefield, and the thing is, they go to them for the help, right? And because the council's having to be put in a position where they can say, well, we don't have to help you to do nothing, right? It's now your problem. And this is what we found up and down the country.
See, I'm pretty sure, I can't remember it exactly because it's been some time since I've looked at it. But I'm pretty sure somewhere in the Human Rights Act, it covers protection from discrimination. Now, surely, not allowing somebody the help that they need to stop them from becoming homeless would fall under discrimination at some point.
Yeah, the trouble is these laws on discrimination, they're not really applied across the board, are they? They're only applied to people they want to victimise. Anybody who is in a position of alleged authority or power, the rules don't seem to apply to them, as is the case for all kinds of different crimes and misdemeanours. Oh, they just get away with it.
Well, that's just it. You just hit the nail right on the head. You know, it applies to some people, it doesn't apply to others. And Westminster is a prime example of that.
Well, to the MPs have just had a pay rise. The Queen's had a pay rise.
That's what?
The last MP's pay rise, they said, "Oh, we're going to take it, but we're going to give the pay rise to charity." And there's only like 7 or 8 MPs who've actually give that pay rise to charity.
Mm.
And how many MPs are there sat in Westminster?
635, isn't it?
It's not a massive percentage that's actually gone ahead and done it then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We just got a question here in the chat room from Delamitri. He says, question, are things improving in the UK? Well, from my point of view, things are only improving for the incredibly wealthy. For the middle class, lower class, underclass, anyone who's not in the top echelon, things are just getting worse and worse, and they have done all my life, and they're continuing to do so. It's a bit like Jason said, I think it was Jason, they'll give you a little bit, like, say for argument's sake, they have an election, they vote out Cameron, and they put in Corbyn. Now, we've already gone down maybe backwards 10 steps since Cameron got in. You might go 2 steps forward before when Corbyn gets in, but then pretty soon after it, you'll notice you've gone another 8 steps backwards. So there's the illusion of improvement. I mean, Osborne was spouting some kind of bullshit about we're going to be in the black this year. Complete cobblers.
So, do you really think that Corbyn would do any better of a job? Because I think this is in the same pot as the rest of them.
Well, I think he's another big distraction. He's quite clearly shown that he's not all he's cracked up to be, and I think the fact that he was asked to investigate child abuse in, I believe it was Lewisham in 1992, and didn't do anything about it. Says an awful lot about Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah. From the bits that I've done with Bernie, we've touched on that a little, and he just sat back and swept it under the carpet. I suppose Westminster's the perfect place for him.
Well, the day he had his little celebration after he got voted in, he didn't like the confrontation that he got from a group of us that were already protesting in Parliament Square. We reminded him about Islington, and he just looked at the floor and walked away. The man's got nothing to say. He's just a hypocrite.
Yeah, myself and my partner, we were there, mate.
Mm. Yeah, so anyone who's holding any great store in JC being the new saviour, is the Messiah, is going to lead us out of all this, think again. Judge a man by his actions, not by his words.
Well, they just offer you crumbs. That's all the opposition do. So, we're going to change this, we're going to change that, and you don't even get the crumbs. You'd think after all this time, like we discuss all the time on the show, that people would realise there's no difference. The government still gets in charge. It doesn't matter who you vote for. That there's no difference between them, really, at the end of the day. You're still going to be served the same slop.
That's just it. It's like people don't realise. They want to bury their heads in the sand. People find it much easier to bury their heads in the sand and agree to anything. But I'm pretty sure this country's supposed to be a democracy. Right now, if you go back to any elections, whether in locals or anything else, I remember a time when people used to go door to door and they used to canvass and they used to ask, what you think or any ideas that you've got. But they don't do that anymore. So how exactly is it still classed as a democracy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got a comment. There's quite comments coming thick and fast in the chat room now. Jeff says a local MP pockets close to £200 in fuel expenses on a return trip to London, £118 each way. He said, take £50 off for fuel, ka-ching. And Nita also says, no man or woman who has a profile will be allowed such if not a controlled puppet. If lowly pop stars are controlled, then the next leader of the country most certainly is.
Well, the thing is, we don't have a democracy. there's the party whip system that means that you basically have to vote for whatever the leader of that party wants you to vote for. I mean, at the minute they're talking about bombing Syria, and Corbyn, which is right, he's saying don't bomb them. To be fair to him, that's right. But he's getting stick for having a free vote, where he's not whipping the rest of them into voting against it, even though it's the right thing to do to vote against it. But that's a dictatorship. That's not a democracy. If the leader just decides what's to be done, that's a dictatorship, and that's exactly the way our system works.
See, but it didn't used to, and wouldn't it make more sense to get back to the roots of the UK and have it back as a democracy?
How would you get back to that, though, with the mess that it's in now? Would it be a simple thing of enough people not voting for anybody?
I think we should just fire them all and put a bunch of preschool kids in there.
Well, I think we were all set a very good example several years ago by a little tiny country called Iceland. They went to Parliament, they threw all their MPs out, sacked a lot of them, and then they went on to prosecute all the bankers that were stealing from the country. Why the hell aren't we doing the same?
Because, as it's already been pointed out, people would rather bury their head in the sand, right, and pretend that everything's okay when, quite a few of us agree that everything's not okay. I mean, we were in Westminster with Bernie, and Bernie actually approached a police officer that was patrolling around the area just to get a bit of information, and he basically said to this police officer, if somebody, came up to you and said that this person's touched you inappropriately, what would you do? He said, well, I'd go over, I'd arrest him, I'd open an investigation, and things would go from there. He said, okay, so, take the same question, but somebody came up to you and said the same thing, but it was somebody sat in Westminster, and the police officer answered with well, that's different.
Yeah, it's always very, very different, because several people have been on Westminster protests about child abuse, and the same question has been asked of very, very senior officers that have been on there. Evidence about Kenneth Clark. We all know that he was involved in taking kids from Beechwood Children's Home in Nottingham down to flats that's definitely identified as being Dolphin Square. And they said, well, if you've got the evidence, go to your local police. They're meant to be serving us, and somebody actually offered him the evidence, including a couple of photographs, but they just don't want to know. They're all in it together.
Yeah, I think that's because the police force don't actually serve anyone but the government.
But as far as that's concerned, I mean, we can bang on about the Goddard inquiry, and a lot of people do not have any faith in it. But the one thing I will say is, it's the first ever inquiry of this nature. It's the biggest thing that's ever hit the UK, and unless we give it a chance, we will never know. It's the only thing that's on offer, and she has said that she'll leave no stones unturned, including the Westminster Peas. Well, they keep giving us dead ones like Leon Britton. How about giving us some live ones like Kenneth Clark?
And on that note, I'm just seeing we're nearly at the top of the hour, so perhaps now would be a good time to have a quick music break, a wee break, and we can all make a brew, have a cup of tea, do whatever we need to, and we'll be back in a few minutes, and hopefully Barry's partner Sarah will be joining us. So back in a few minutes, folks.
Yes, crossed.
Welcome back to Enemy Within on the Tuesday, the 1st of December. It's December already. Where the heck did the year go? But played that song, last one, for Sarah, who's hopefully going to join us in a few minutes. She's a little bit nervous, but it's just a chat between friends, so nothing to worry about, Sarah, when you're ready to come and join us. But welcome back, Mickey, Tom, and Barry.
Yeah, I've just been digging through, a few of the facts that I'd managed to dig up in various sources. I mean, I've got to say, massive thank you to Bernie, because he actually handed some of them to me on a silver platter. But just going through, back onto the homeless situation, right? We discuss, the homeless situation throughout the UK, but I mean, it's not just the UK that is suffering homelessness, right? Now, there's literally just over 11 million empty houses in Europe alone. I mean, that is a substantial figure.
That's an incredible figure, yeah.
But, I mean, comparing that to the amount of actual homeless that there are in Europe, right, we're looking around 720,000 homeless in Europe.
Well, what that also tells me, Barry, is we've got a disproportionately large number in the UK. You're talking 120 to maybe 150, depending on what kind of figures you go with.
Yeah.
Yet there's only 700,000 homeless in... I say only. There are 700,000 in the EU. Well, surely we make up a lot more than a lot less than 1/6 of the EU's population, or 1/5, whatever it is. So obviously, the prats that we've got supposed to be representing our interests are doing so way more badly than other European countries.
Well, we already knew they were doing a horrendous job of running the country, but yeah, that puts it more into perspective. What will also put it a little more into perspective is, and this year's figures, between January and March of this year, there were 28,000 homeless applications. Right, now that's only between mid-January and the beginning of March, so technically that's like 2.5 months. 28,000. So far, when I wrote these down, we were around, I think it was around the end of October, beginning of November. But over the first 10 months of this year, there were approximately 90,000 homelessness applications in the UK. And statistic-wise, I'm pretty sure my maths is bang on here. Approximately 49% of these homelessness applications were accepted, and people helped in one way or another. Now, so some of the issues that I did find when it says these people are helped, the majority of these people are put into temporary accommodation. Now, this is accommodation like hostels or bed and breakfasts, but a family in a hostel or in a bed and breakfast, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's certainly not helping anybody to any great extent. There's a good point just been raised by John McCann in the chat room, and he says, isn't it lack of money preventing people taking on these culprits in courts on a single basis, Nita? To which Nita responded, it doesn't have to get to court. Surely the threat of court action would be enough to get checkmate in the game. Now, that really ties into something Paul Webster was talking about when we had him on last week or the week before, and he was saying that they're preventing him in particular, and many of the people he's working with, in taking the utility companies to court, because the charges to get into the court and to file a suit are just going up and up and up. And they've gone off the scale, and it's just taking justice away from, or any semblance of justice away from the people who haven't got a lot of money to spare.
Well, again, that goes back to what you were saying previously, to the top echelon of the country, we're ending up more and more well off while the rest of us are suffering.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, in order to actually take on some of these authorities, with regards to actually taking them to court for violations of whatever they're violating you on, you need to have some form of legal representation. You try and get legal aid, it's not available. I had to fight a county court injunction not long ago. Could not get legal aid But fortunately, I had enough people behind me, people like Guy Taylor, that was able to help me, and other people like a woman from Kettering that helped me with my civil rights and my human rights. Without that, I wouldn't have won at all, and it's all about the things that they've taken away. The legal system used to help us. It's not there anymore.
Another thing that they're not tackling that you mentioned earlier at the beginning of the show, Barry, was about the mental health issue. And that goes across the board. It's not just people who are homeless. Obviously, people who have been on the streets for a long time are going to be mentally ill. And it's not being tackled. If a lot of them were helped with the mental illness, they might get out of the situation, especially when they get into accommodation. Obviously, you're just going to go backwards if you're not helped with the mental health part.
Well, in terms of the mental health stuff, what a lot of the councils have done, they've actually sold it out to third-party agencies, and that is where the problem is. They're not equipped to deal with some of the problems that homeless people face. Things like addiction, alcoholism. Many homeless people are, for want of a better way of putting it, addicts or alcoholics, and they can't get out of the system to get into rehab. If you wanted to get into a rehab, you have to have a fixed address. If you haven't got a fixed address, you've got no chance. And that is where the system is failing. That's just one area.
And so not only that, Mickey, right? I mean, I completely agree. There are quite a high percentage of men and women that are either drug or alcohol dependent, right? But there are genuine cases, that aren't, and they don't use either. I mean, we've come across ex-squaddies that have been on the streets, and to serve your country and then, left to rot on the streets. That's well, to me that takes disgusting to a whole new level. But what we found is a lot of the hostels, let's say YMCA or the M25 in Doncaster, these hostels have specific criteria. Now, if you are outside this criteria, then you're not eligible to get help from them, right? Which leaves a significant amount of people high and dry, not getting any help they need, right? So basically, that's saying to them, right? Yes, okay, we accept people that are drug or alcohol dependent. So if you become drug or alcohol dependent, we'd be willing to help. Not until. I mean, what kind of message does that send out to everyone?
Yeah, it's one thing to become an addict. It's another to get out of it. I've been there, worn the T-shirt, and I'm 12 years distant from it. And I, for one, would not want to go back down that route just in order to get out. It's disgusting.
I mean, through speaking to some of these guys, the majority of them, right, are nice, polite, well-mannered. We've even come across some that are so well-educated, right, they completely, they make me look like a blithering idiot. Mm-hmm. But for one reason or another, they've ended up on the streets. But then they're being told that unless they're drug or alcohol dependent, they're not going to be eligible for help from these hostels. I mean, don't get me wrong, that's the M25 group generally, and anyone that works with them. Doncaster YMCA, they have an age limit, so anybody over that age limit can't get any help. The foyer in Doncaster, which is run by the Salvation Army, again, that's got an age limit. I believe that's 16 to 25. So anybody over that age doesn't get any help. So if you're outside the age brackets for Doncaster YMCA and Doncaster Foyer, but aren't drug or alcohol dependent, what they're saying is it's tough, basically.
Yeah, so you've got a massive group of people there that are just completely falling through the net, haven't you?
Yeah, which goes to show that there's a massive issue with, our local council. It's got a big gap that needs something putting in between.
You were saying that a lot of homeless people they're really educated, and it's one of the things that people don't understand how easy it is actually to become homeless. everybody's just a wrong turn away from being homeless.
Yeah. Any one of us can become homeless at any point. It doesn't necessarily have to be our own faults. I mean, somebody mentioned bedroom tax earlier on in the conversation. Now, the bedroom tax is ridiculous. So, if you've got a family in, say a family in a 4-bedroom house, and one of the kids hits university age and decides to go off to university, like, if this place belongs to the council, they've then got to, pay for that bedroom that's not being used or move out. Now, this is what's presented so many problems, right? Because this can be a family that's lived in this house for the last 25 years, but when they're getting to the point where somebody moves out, it's you either pay the money or you get out.
Mm-hmm. I've just had a comment passed to me by Steve Johnson, who's been a guest on many of our shows, and I know from what Steve told me, he worked in a homeless hostel himself, and he went there to help people and ended up leaving because it wasn't really happening. But he says, in my experience, 80% at least of homeless had mental health issues, all had addiction issues. They cannot look after themselves. Nobody chooses to be homeless. They need to sort out the issues leading to homelessness. Once they're on the street, it's a bit like closing the door after the horse has bolted. And bravo, well said, Mickey. So does that fit with your experience, Barry?
Well, I'd say yes and no at the same time. Yes, there are issues that need to be rectified so that people obviously don't become homeless. That'd be the easiest way to solve homelessness. But you're always going to have some issues where people can't actually help becoming homeless. Now, I couldn't, give examples on the grounds that, I don't know from first-hand experience. But we need to combat the problem at both sides, not just at one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got some more comments here in the chat room. We're keeping them very busy tonight, Barry. Paul Sturm is saying there is no service in the country. It's a control paradigm. Lorraine, Mickey's wife, is in there again. She said, let's not forget the homeless veterans, which I believe you just mentioned. They're not taken care of as veterans nor as human beings. John McCann, the same situation here in Ireland. When it comes to rehab, homeless, etc., you have to be clean to get into rehab. Clearly that doesn't make any sense, being clean to get into rehab. Surely that's why you need rehab, because you're not clean. Sorry, Mickey, you had something to say there.
Yeah, in terms of what Steve Johnson was saying about a lot of people having mental health issues and addiction problems, 10 years ago I worked for a charity organisation in Croydon, involved drugs rehabilitation, day-to-day counselling. But part of what we did, we actually worked with Croydon Council, and we actually had a great rapport. Sadly, there's no more funding available, and agencies like the one that I work for, they're struggling to exist. And the rapport that they had with the councils, because the councils say they've got no money, it's gone. So where do you go from there? And then you have to answer what Lorraine said. Lorraine's an American. I've lived there, and the one thing I have to say about America is all of the veterans, they get well looked after, well ahead of anything that the British Legion or anyone's got over here. That they will not see a veteran out on the street wherever it's possible. This country needs to get a grip of that situation. You've got soldiers returning from war zones with injuries that are going to cripple them for the rest of their lives. And what is there? There's nothing.
Yeah, we've got a very valid point raised by Ken in the chat room as well. He says, does anyone here think that the prostitutes known as politicians have any say in what happens? Once you start looking into it, it's quite clear that they don't make the policies, they just do as they're damn well told. Otherwise, they'll spill the dirt on what they've been doing with children in their spare time.
Still there, Barry? I think you might be handing the microphone over to Sarah.
Ah, yes,
Sorry.
possibly.
Sorry, mate. I was just speaking to Sarah. She's just requested. Is there any chance you can stick a song on or something so she can have a quick chat before you go on air?
Yeah, of course we can do that. We'll do that right now. Okay, we're going to play a song, and hopefully when we get back on, we'll have Sarah back on with us. Back in a few minutes, folks. And welcome back to Enemy Within on this Tuesday, 1st of December. We've still got Mickey Summers sat at the side of me here. Tom's up there, all the way up there in Durham. And
Right.
It's the land of the Pink Panther. Durham.
and
Never heard that one, Mickey.
And Barry's just handed over to Sarah. So good evening, Sarah, and welcome to Enemy Within.
Hey guys.
Hello, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
You alright?
Lovely to finally speak to you.
Oh, thank you.
And just before we go on, I've just had a look on the crowdfunding page to send Mickey home for Christmas. And I know there's people who listen to PIR who have donated. And the great news is that we're only 50 quid short of the target to send Mickey home for Christmas. So I'll pop the link back in the PIR chat room. So if anybody's got a couple of quid to spare, or even 50 to finish the job off, let's get Mickey home for Christmas with his wonderful wife Lorraine. Yeah. So Sarah, you started all this up, and you got Barry into this. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got started?
Yeah, I took in a lady that was homeless. She slept on my couch for like 4 months. We set up the food kitchen out back of Mum's car. We had like 10, and it built and built and built. Now things have progressed, and we've now took over a property. Well, this businessman approached us with a property. We've got 10 bedrooms. We're offering supported accommodation, and we're moving everything to there eventually. But it's coming on leaps and bounds, and without the people in Doncaster that support us and help, we couldn't do any of this. It's been amazing. The people in Doncaster have been absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I'd take my hat off to you guys. The work you're doing is amazing. I've just had a comment there, and we were talking about veterans, and a comment from Paul Sturm. He says, cheap beer in the VFW, I presume that's a veterans place. Thousands of us vets are homeless and suicidal. They are discarded as useless eaters by the likes of Kissinger, just tools to implement the wishes of the RK Mafia.
I've got an ex-vet in there at minute.
Mm-hmm.
He was sleeping in a place near River Don. They call it Tent City.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, he was sleeping there. We've took him in. We've given him a room and everything. And he's overwhelmed with that people care. And, people do care. And it actually reported him missing 3 days ago because he didn't come back. And he was crying. He come back, he said, I didn't realise people cared about me. Why do people care about people like us? It really upset me. And there were people out looking for him. I phoned police. I phoned Doncaster Hospital. Bless him. I don't know. But I'm hoping to do more. I want to do more.
Well, I think there's an awful lot of us in that situation. We're doing what we can, but once you realise what a state the world is and how badly the people are being treated by these psychopaths, you always want to do more, don't you?
Yeah.
And I think you and Barry in particular, and all the people you work with, you're doing a tremendous job. What I'd say is don't beat yourself up, but it's, it is just one of those things. Once you get into this, you just feel like, oh God, I want to do more, and whatever you do, it never feels like you're doing enough unless the problem's solved, does it?
No, but I asked my kids last Christmas, right? I said to them, look, there's these people out there that need us. They need safety, they need warmth, they need food. Would you mind in having a little less for Christmas? Now, bearing in mind, right, I've got 10 kids, right, and I've got a granddaughter. They all said, right, Mum, do what you want to do. And they've stood by me, 110%. And they'll go without again this year to make sure other people have what they need. And that's what we do. We've got nothing to hide. That's what we do.
Yeah. I've just had a little note passed to me here from Mickey, and he says, for Sarah, if there are any ex-veterans homeless in Inbox
Mickey.
Oh, sorry, Inbox Mickey, he has Squaddy's contacts in South Yorkshire that can help.
Yeah, I've got 2 that I'm trying to track down at a minute. Because my brother, he's ex-army. He's got 2 lads that need somewhere to go. So I will. Mickey, thank you. Thank you so much.
If you get my phone number off of Andy at the end of the show, I'll get in touch with a friend of mine, Simon, in Sheffield. And I'm pretty sure from some of the things that he did last Christmas with ex-soldiers that were actually struggling, I'm pretty sure Simon will be more than up for stepping up to the plate.
That'd be brilliant. Thank you, Mickey.
You're welcome.
That'd be brilliant. Thank you.
Wow. It's all about networking and making connections, and
yeah. But I've had Mickey on Facebook a while. I've been following him, and I met him in London. I didn't, So yeah, thank you, Mickey. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm an ex-squaddy myself, so once you're part of that so-called brotherhood, we look after each other, and I found that with the retired army colonel that I've been doing a lot of stuff with, connected to what I've been doing. We might be ex-soldiers, but we still have that camaraderie that we had when we were soldiers.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we've got Flat as a pancake, in the chat room, has said, if there were no soldiers, the politicians couldn't do their wars. So blame the individual. So I blame the individual soldiers. Well,
no.
I think that's a bit of a difficult one. Most soldiers believe they're doing a good job. They believe they're defending their families and their country. They're not really aware of the fact that they're fighting these wars for the arms manufacturers and the oligarchs who run the whole shooting match and tell the politicians what they're going to do.
And they're recruited just after school, where they don't have much understanding of society and the world, how it works. They deliberately target young people to go in the army. If they targeted people over 50, they'd have no recruits.
Yeah, and also army basic training has a great deal of brainwashing in it, because one of the things they tell you is that we'll break you down and build you up in the mode that we want you. Well, yeah, unfortunately that's messing with your head quite a lot, so you do exactly as you're told without questioning it.
I know a lot. Sorry. I was just going to say I know a lot of ex-veterans, and they're the most educated on what's really happening in the world now. They know they were duped.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that.
You were saying about the kids doing stuff for the homeless, going without. My nephew at the minute, a week ago, he was doing one of those shoe boxes for Africa. He's only 4, but he put his Etch-a-Sketch in, and he says, "Oh, I'll draw a picture of me on it." And he drew a picture on the Etch-a-Sketch. And he said, "Oh, do you think you'll want one of me Toy Story toys as well?" I'm putting that in.
That's so nice. Oh, last Christmas I said to my kids, look, I want to do more to help people. I don't work myself. The kids said, yeah, that's fine. We'll do this, and this. And same again this year. I've set up a shoebox appeal, a sleeping bag appeal. They've both got lots of interest. I've got loads of shoe boxes filled with amazing things that people have, I've even got people saying, my little 10-year-old's done this. And there's stuff in there for a male and a female. And, it's amazing. It restores my faith in humanity because I didn't think there were any left, to be quite honest with you. And we're getting a bit, with things that are happening in press and Facebook and everything else. But I've had an amazing comeback from all this, and it's humbled me. And honestly, some of the things I've got, it's amazing. Honestly, amazing.
Well, it is so easy to despair and think, oh my God, there's only a few of us aware of what's going on, and the whole of the rest of the world doesn't give a damn about anything apart from where the next new shiny toy's coming from.
Exactly. But that little step at a time, a little bit of difference, people sharing things and people collecting things, is that little step at a time. It's going to get somewhere.
I have a little question to ask people out there. On the run up to Christmas, are there any events for helping the homeless? I know there's one that's scheduled to go off in Nottingham within the next couple of weeks, but if there's anyone listening across the country, maybe you could put it up in the chat room and let us know what's happening in your area. Then we can spread the news and at least do something.
Mickey, what are you doing on Saturday?
I'm not sure, but get my number off of Andy later, and I'll have a look when I get back home, and we can have a chat.
Yeah, Mickey, look, message me on Facebook. You've got me on Facebook. We've got a protest on Saturday outside Mansion House in Doncaster, protesting about everything, homelessness, everything. If you want to come along, we'd greatly appreciate that.
Well, I'm under orders to calm down at the moment by quite a few people.
Yeah, I know. But
yeah, Mickey's been unfortunately paying a visit or two to the hospital lately. So yeah, he's been fighting this fight so long. So, but I'm sure if there's a chance of him being there, he will do. Lorraine's just posted. I could do so much if I were there. I love helping people. That's wonderful, Lorraine, and hopefully it'll not be too long before you're over here with Mickey, or Mickey's back over there for you, having won the fight, and then you'll be able to do so much good together.
At the end of the day, though, I mean, you've got to have been there, done it, and worn the T-shirt. Unless you've been homeless, you don't really understand it. I'm one drug away from going back into addiction and falling back into that cycle, and that's what keeps my awareness. I have to be very, very careful on what I do. The emotional roller coaster ride that I've been on personally in recent times, there's been times that I've thought throw the towel in, because the pain of doing what I've done, it'd be easy to take it away just for a minute with that one drug. But that one drug, it's never one. It's the start of a whole cycle, and I've got no intentions of ever going back there.
Yes, we got a couple of interesting comments in the chat room there. Commonly known as Mark, I know Mark's coming on with us very shortly to talk about the work they're doing over in Liverpool. He says 12th of December, Williamson Square, Liverpool, there is a homeless event. Ken also adds that it might be Susie, actually, because the spelling looks pretty good, of the Spanish bit. He said no action for the homeless in Villanueva de Pontado, but plenty of empty properties going dirt cheap. So, I suppose if you
far too many empty properties. Far too many.
Yeah. I know, spoke to Ken and Susie, and there's an awful lot of empty properties over there, because I think it was a lot of people bought properties to let out to holidaymakers, and then they closed the airport, which kind of screwed that plan up. So a lot of properties just abandoned there.
It makes sense. The councils don't care. It doesn't make sense to me, but they're quite happy to fine people and charge them with vagrancy and fine them. How are they supposed to pay the fines? They've got no address. They can't pay them.
No, it's completely ridiculous.
Yeah,
Well, all you see as well is posters saying it's illegal to give anybody on the street money. And it's like you were saying earlier about the veteran who was crying. That I've given so many homeless people 20 quid when I've pinpointed one who really I'd just pinpoint somebody who I think he really needs it, and I go over and I give 20 quid, and the amount of times that he just burst out crying is unbelievable. When we were over in Vancouver recently, there's a lot of homeless there who just you don't have to give them money. You just go in the shop and feed them. There was a lot of homeless there who had banners just saying, "We just want food."
Yeah. Barry's tried to do that, and police in Doncaster have stopped him doing it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what? Why? We're not doing anything wrong. They tried to shut us down at market. It's... I don't understand how people can be so disrespectful to people. They've not done nothing wrong. It could happen to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's what bothers me.
We've got a comment from Cotty in the chat room. Thanks, Cotty. He said, I like that. If going to protest, do it for everything. Save you protesting every other week. So I think what he's saying there is all the different protest groups should be getting together and, instead of having a couple of hundred or a couple of thousand people on there, have a few million people on the street, shut the whole job down, and let's get them taking notice. And I think that's a damn good idea, Cotty. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you. That's why me, Barry and Bernard decided to come up with the Doncaster United Against Injustice this Saturday. Everything into one. There you go. Let's get everybody there. Let's do it. Let's stand up and be counted. We've got to do something. It can't continue like it's a joke. Nobody cares. And humanity's failing. And it breaks my heart. My kids are going without year in, year out because they want to help people. And it's about time other people actually listened and realise what's going off. But they don't. Nobody cares.
No. The trouble is people don't care until it lands on their doorstep, till it affects them. I mean, a classic example would be that woman who was on Question Time a bit back. And she sat there almost in tears saying, well, I voted for the Conservatives. And basically saying, I voted the Conservatives because I knew they were going to fuck people over, but not me. And now she's in tears because, well, I voted for you and you're screwing me over. Well, get real, ducky. You're learning how it works.
Yeah, exactly. They don't think it can happen to you any time. And it's a sad thing. It's a really sad thing. I've got a lad, right, lovely lad, right, in the property. I've given him a room. He's got to have a room. He's a recovering addict, right. He's done it himself. He's a lovely lad. Help anybody. He's amazing. Honestly, amazing. I trust him with my kids. He's that nice. But, people look at him and say, oh, you're this, you're that, you're other. He was sleeping in a doorway 3 weeks ago and he was getting kicked in the face. But he's done nothing wrong. But since we give him somewhere to live, he's got his claim sorted out and he's seen his kids again for the first time in 6 months. Do you understand? It's little things like that make a difference. And people don't understand. It breaks my heart how people can be so nasty to other people.
Yes, it does me as well, yeah.
Well, the thing is, people kick people before they even become homeless. They become drug addicts where they can recover from that, and people kick them because they're a drug addict when you could help them out of that. One of my friends got into drugs. He ended up being homeless without they even knowing he was homeless. And then when I found out that helped him out of it. And now he's doing great. He's married, doing absolutely great.
Yeah. I've just took Mickey's phone numbers there in the Skype box for you, Sarah, so you'll be able to get in touch with him after the show.
Thank you, Mickey.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
When you talk about things like addicts, the one thing that I've learned from being one is that one addict can best help and understand another addict, and I've applied those principles in the things that I've been doing over so-called historic child abuse. But you can apply those same principles to the homelessness. If you've been homeless, you can understand the dilemmas that a homeless person goes through, and those principles work in any area of life, and I try and practice those principles like on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got. I've just posted the Doncaster United Against Injustice Facebook page there in the chat room for anybody who missed it first time I posted it. And Mark has just commented, he said, I gave me change the other day to a young lady with a buddy, and it made folk give more as we sat and chatted with her. So, yeah, good actions are contagious. You know, if people see that, you know, these are not just some kind of subhuman species you can walk past and ignore. And I think if they see people sitting and talking and spending time with these people and trying to help them out, I severely hope that will encourage more people to do the same.
I hope so. I hope people, you know, listen. And we're all human. Everybody needs something. Everybody needs somebody. There's things I want to do, but I can't, and it's frustrating me. I mean, the building that we've got, it's not 100% finished yet. But I'd like to do things where I can let people in that don't have a home to shower. Do you know what I mean? And they can come and have a coffee and a bit of something. That's what I want to do. But I can't till it's finished. It's frustrating me.
Well, I understand where you're coming from, but every little bit, I mean, I know from my experiences, any little bit of kindness that anybody shows you goes a long way. And I've heard some very moving stories. There was a guy bought a picture off a homeless guy. He'd sat there drawing with some dodgy old felt tips, and he was asking 20p for a drawing. And this guy said, I bought one of his drawings, and he said, as I walked away, he said, I just thought, I've got to do something about this. So he went into a shop and he bought him some pencils and a proper sketch pad and some decent paint pens. And then he bought him one or two more bits. And then he said he nipped into W.H. Smith and stuck a Sharpie up his sleeve because there's no way he's paying £3 for a pen like that. And he took him to this guy, and when he gave him the present, the guy burst into tears. But he said I sat down with him and we talked for a while, and he said he's an absolutely fantastic guy. So those are the kind of things that are needed, and it often moves me to tears, some of the things I see that people do.
I've got a bracelet on my wrist from a homeless person in Vancouver. Give him $20 for it.
Oh, wow.
I never want to take it off, actually.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. And Mark's pretty much summed it up there, and he said love and compassion is all that's needed.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, there's so much propaganda. People that are frightened to give to the homeless. That, well, he's just going to spend it on booze and drugs. Well, let's see how much booze and drugs you would take if you were living in the elements outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes alcohol and drugs are just a self-medication, a coping mechanism. And
well, especially during the winter months, you know, if you're out freezing in the elements, you know, to go into a blackout like via alcohol or drugs, you've solved your problem of sleeping for the night. You know, that's about as bad as it gets.
Yeah.
Still there, Sarah?
I'm still here.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we're coming to the last 10 minutes now of the show, and thank you so much to you and Barry for joining us, and thank you, Mickey, for suddenly appearing out of the blue. Is there any links or events that you've got to give out, or any suggestions that you might have to people of other ways in which they might be able to help?
Me or Mickey?
Well, you, Sarah, first, and then we'll ask Mickey as well.
Right, we're stepping forward on Facebook. We've got a protest this Saturday, 5th of December, 10 o'clock outside Mansion House. It's Doncaster United Against Injustice, protesting everything, all in one go. Let's do it. Might as well. And Mickey, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome. I know there is an event that's upcoming in Nottingham to help the homeless. It's about getting food and bedding and shock blankets out to them. That a few people have got together and arranged. What I will do is I'll get in touch with the people that I know that are involved in it, because I do not know the exact date, but I will update Andy as soon as I do know, and we'll get that up in the chat rooms and out on the air later in the week.
Thanks for that, Mickey. Tom, you got anything to add to that?
No, please check out our Facebook page as always. It's Enemy Within Radio, all one word. It's at Enemy Within Talk on Twitter, and it's www.enemywithinradio.com. Like Sarah's been saying, it doesn't matter what you're protesting about. It's best to get together. It's just like what we're doing in radio now. It's difficult to get people together because there's so many conflicting attitudes and belief systems. It doesn't really matter. You're all going for the same thing, so you should all get together and protest at the same time. When people are talking about certain subjects, it can all be arranged. It is better to get the numbers out there than have separate protests. I do agree with that.
Yeah. I'm just looking. Where are we? Oh, yes. And I'd just like to say this Friday, we've got a guest coming back on who came on a while back with Mickey, and we've got Tracy Morris coming on. And Tracy is one fiery character, and she's been, well, as Mickey often puts it, tearing a lot of people a new arsehole. So tune in Friday night, and we'll be on with Tracy Morris. And I'd like to wish you all a very good night, and thank you very much for listening. Stay tuned for Graham Hart from 9 till 11, and then the Amash Files 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and thanks for your great contribution from the chat room. Good night, Mickey.
Yeah, good night to everybody, and just remember, if you can't be good, be careful, and if you can't be careful, give them hell.
And thank you, Sarah and Barry, and good night to you too.
There was best wishes to Bernie, yeah?
Yeah, best wishes to all of us from all of us to Bernie. Get well soon, Bernie, mate. And Tom, thank you very much for you tonight.
No problem. Great to be here.
And after a word from Rick Simpson, we'll play out with a bit of Pink Floyd.
See you later, folks.
See you later.
See you Friday.
Bye.